where do the drums come from?
Well, played by no other person than Gordie Johnson himself.
Man, that guy can just play everything. It's when we're like, I know him as an incredible guitarist, and then when I
Yeah.
got to know him, it turns out that he basically cut his teeth as like the best bass player. Like he it was all bass until he was older, and then he goes, "Well, I'll switch to guitar," and he's known as one of the great guitarists. So it's, all these instruments you don't know that he plays, and he's actually
Oh
world
man.
class at all of them. So
I know I've seen him play here in Austin and some of the local gigs and stuff he does sometimes. And I didn't know he was like a bass player before a guitar player either. And I was like, I like his guitar playing, but people gotta hear him play bass. He's a hell of a bass player. Like, yeah, well, I guess he does what he does on guitar, he does on bass. He moves air. Like you can feel it. It's not just bass notes or like bass lines. It's like I that's what I appreciate about this guy. It's like he moves things. And anyhow, so he played bass, played some guitars also on there, and also played the drums, which was very, very cool. I thought that was the coolest thing ever. And he really had a particular snare sound that I really liked. Uh, being from like the from around here, I think he told me that some of the drums recorded for Big Sugar also had a snare drum that was used on some of the ZZ Top stuff. So the wide open snare sounds and stuff. So was I got to know him as different kinds of instrumentalist, and that was really cool. Yeah.
I have two questions that come up from that. So one is about a snare. So on the song Be Who You Be, so there's
Yeah.
cowbell, which is awesome, but I find there's a different snare sound on that song than any song on the album. Is that one of the crazy snares you're talking about? It's like really snappy. It sounds like a lot of room. It sounds like there's the snare and the
Yeah.
mic is not right on it. It sounds like the mic is like a big room mic. Does that make any
Um,
sense?
yeah, it makes total sense. I'd have to ask Gordie what snare that was. I think it's just a matter of tuning and just the way he played it. And the cowbell was just
You
came
need
out of the
cowbell
blue.
somewhere on the album. I
Well, it's
mean,
a
come
rock
on.
album. At one point, it's like you either go for it or you don't. And I think it's like we went for it. For
Yeah,
sure.
the song "Drinking Beer and Driving Around," is Gordie doing spoken word on that? Is that him?
Yes. Oh, that's a good story, as a matter of fact. Initial.
Story time with Ricky Paquette.
Oh
Let's go.
man, we spent a lot of hours talking via FaceTime, doing some writing, and we were writing some riff, uh, and we had the music for it. And then I can't remember some of the other titles, but we tried different things, and it was not a spoken kind of storytelling kind of song at all. And then we just weren't really happy with what the lyrical content where that was going. It's like this doesn't feel exactly right. So one night he played the instrumental for his family, and he asked his wife and his daughter. I can't remember who answered, but he told me about this the next day. So he said, so I played the instrumental for the family, and I asked them what they kind of thought this sounded like and what the song should talk about. And what came to what came to mind was drinking beer and driving around. I said, drinking beer and driving around. That's crazy. So we started talking. It was kind of late, and I was having a couple of drinks, rum and cokes in the basement, and started talking about like stories. And so I had this. I don't know what came to mind. I told him about this weird story when I was living on a farm, and my friend was over, and I had just moved out there, and I had a Kubota, and we went. I can't remember how I ended up telling him this whole entire story, but we winded up that specific time taking the Kubota to the corner store to get some beer, and we were just driving down the street with this Kubota and stuff. So he thought that was so funny, and he had just told me about drinking beer and driving around, which is probably the reason why I told him about this story in the first place. But the song was not there yet. So he only had kind of title, and he asked me, what do you think about this? So I told him the story. We did some other stuff, and the next day he sent me drinking beer and driving around with him singing on it like that. And if you listen to the song, it's like, why would I want to change the way that song sounds? Like, I can't really sing that like that. And it's a funny story. It's got a bit of a Frank Zappa thing to it. And then we just decided, wow, maybe this should be a duet. And we kind of like left it kind of like that for a while, not really being sure of what was going to happen with it. There might have we thought about having other different guests do it, and then we figured, why have a different guest? Gordie's the guest on there. So sang some stuff like on the bridge and the choruses, and did some solos, and so that whole story is 90% true. But anyhow, that's the old days.
You,
I was young and wild.
now you're you're a responsible adult, There you
Yeah.
go. Somewhat.
Well, yeah, somewhat. I mean, I wasn't. Yeah, it was a Kubota. It wasn't a car.
Yeah, all good. So
I was living on a farm.